Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
Right, so Cold Pursuit. This is a film which... It's a revenge film.
Yes.
That's his thing. Liam Neeson, the star. And it's, you know, slightly in the mould of Taken and things like that. It's not a guy getting his family back. He loses a family member early on and it's revenge for that. It's more of a John Wick in that respect. Kind of, he loses his dog and he goes up the chain of the people responsible. And spoilers are going to be coming up. We're going to spoil the whole thing in detail, so make sure you see it because it is good.
From the first, 4 shots of this film, I really stood up to attention, actually. I thought, this is like a real filmmaker working here. Every shot was interesting.
Yeah.
Every composition was interesting. It was beautifully lit. And then, as the story unfolded, I thought, oh my God, this is like one of those Bud Boddicker westerns with Randolph Scott, right? Which are really sparse and lean, and they're like, revenge fantasies that take place kind of in the plains or the deserts or the canyons, yeah. But here it's taking place in the mountains and the snow. That was my first impression. And then it began to be funny, and I thought, oh my God, it has elements of like Fargo, right? And then kind of, the humor became kind of more playful and visual. And the whole film is basically structured as a revenge fantasy in which Liam Neeson's son is murdered by mistake. Yeah, they go get somebody else, and they end up kind of killing him in a drug revenge thing. Somebody who hadn't paid their dealer. So Liam Neeson finds about this and, goes to get revenge. So he finds the first person, and then he finds the next one, and until he goes up to the ringleader of the piece. And then, of course, a gang gets involved, a gang of native people dealing in the reservation and small towns around it.
Yeah, it's set in Colorado.
It's set in Colorado, which is very important. And there's a big splat out at the end, and it's all kind of
splat out.
Yeah. It's very, very wittily done.
Shootout.
I meant splat out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a shootout in which everybody gets splattered in blood.
Yeah.
And actually, I just thought it was absolutely brilliant.
I think it's an awful lot of fun. And, Fargo came to mind for me as well. And also Shane Black.
Yes.
Particularly kind of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It has that
kind of black thing.
It has that kind of post-Tarantino sort of... where Tarantino... it has elements of like Tarantino as well. With like the gangsters sort of discussing other things while they're murdering people, that sort of thing. But it has that kind of slightly slower pace to it where you kind of get to sink into absurdities.
Except, every shot is worth looking at.
Yeah.
I think it's, an incredible film visually.
So it's directed by Petter Moland, who is a Norwegian film director, and it's based on a film he made in Norway. Let me just double check the details. Because it says at the end, based on a film by Kim Fupz Aakerson, but that was his screenwriter, so he's giving him the kind of name drop there. The original film... Give me a second. The original film was from 2014, it's Norwegian, and in English it's called In Order of Disappearance.
I've not seen it.
That joke kind of makes its way into the end here as well. The credits come up and say In Order of Disappearance because so many people die in this, which is quite good fun. The Norwegian title is Kraftidioten, which directly translated means prize idiot. So it gives you kind of a sense of also what's going on here. So he's remade his own film. And there's... I suppose in a sense I did initially have a problem with when Liam Neeson's character first starts killing people. Although it then kind of becomes clear that there's a kind of cartoony aspect to this. But it wasn't clear quite at that point. It was still in a drama thriller sort of mode, I think, by this point. And there was an element... He plays a guy who just drives a snowplow. And he keeps this kind of stretch of road in between... Kehoe is the name of this little skiing village, skiing town.
Resort.
Ski resort, yeah. Between Kehoe and Denver, he keeps his kind of road open, and at the start of the film, you see him being given sort of Key to the City, this award for being the best citizen of the year. So he's kind of this stand-up guy, and his son dies, and he eventually gets to the point of going, well, people did this. This wasn't. It's a heroin overdose, and he goes, there's no way he was a heroin addict. Blah blah blah. Starts killing the people who were responsible. Starts finding them, and you're going, he's so good at this, and he seems to be taken to it so easily that there's going to be a kind of history of violence type twist. That's what I was thinking. Like, it's going to turn out that he has some history of this. And at one point, he goes to his brother, who was involved with gangsters.
Yes.
And they talk about the old days. But then it turns out there's really none of that.
No.
So that was the problem for me, because because he seems to take to it so very easily.
No,
it's basically saying, this is the guy you know from
but the
Taken.
film tells you why. The film is clear about why he's so good at it. So he's a hunter, and he talks about, the relationship with his son all being about hunting, and he's got hunting rifles, and he's got a whole deer in his fridge.
There's a difference between killing deer and killing people.
Yes and no.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, no, come on, it's a fucking movie.
I know.
If you're established as a hunter, and you're used to hunting animals, you can be imagined as hunting people, which is what he does.
I had a problem with it, because I think the fact that he finds killing people, like the technique, whatever, that's one thing, but he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. And I know it's kind of going, well, he just feels vengeance, but I didn't buy that immediately, really.
Well, I did.
I think it's going, this guy from Taken, that this is who Liam Neeson is these days, and it's just going on that. It's going, anyway, this is what you expect from Liam Neeson.
I loved all of that, and the thing is that the film surprises you, because you think it's going to be a very sparse kind of revenge movie, like the other one he did that's set in Alaska, which is like this existential kind of...
Oh, The Grey.
The Grey.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's superb. So I thought it was going to kind of be something like that, but visually more interesting. Because really, I was dazzled, and there are two things. Just, the compositions, the way that kind of people are placed next to things, and how everything is made interesting. The shots of the mountains and people in the mountains, and all of that is rendered beautifully. I was just so struck by that, but also by the intensity of light. Yeah, this is a film that is intensely lit. I don't know how to describe it. So the yellows are yellow. It's kind of, the blue is blue. The white is intense, and there's many shades of it, right? Like, it's a film that just the colors delight, right?
Yeah.
So, and you begin with that it's going to be this kind of Liam Neeson revenge, existential, sad thing. And then the tone changes, and it changes slowly at first, right? And then kind of it gets funnier and funnier.
Funnier and funnier, and darker and darker. And you'll hear, I'm sure, like, when people are talking about this in reviews, you'll hear words like irreverent.
Yes. Or quirky, or, that
exactly.
kind of
It has that kind of thing. But it's actually kind of... I said to you probably 20 minutes in, I said, this is a weird movie, because the tone was shifting so heavily. And it wasn't shifting kind of... it wasn't flowing, right? It was kind of jumping back and forth between tones. It was having dramatic moments and more comical moments, and it wasn't kind of consistent. Which isn't to say it was bad. I think it's in control of its tone completely.
Yes, I think so too.
And it's kind of achieving effects that it's going for.
Yes.
But you do, I think, slightly have to figure out that it's doing that. And actually, what you say about the way it looked is great. You said from the moment it began, you said, wow, it's so well lit. He's kind of he's driving a snowplow at night, and so you've got these huge kind of snow drifts that he's plowing through, and the lights on his thing, and the lights on the sort of barrier that he comes up to, and there's kind of a bit of moonlight, and it is incredibly interestingly lit. And then the kind of way things kind of flash off his face, and then just seeing just the environment that it shows you. It was shot primarily in Alberta.
Oh, yes.
You see those mountains. And they shot it at kind of clearly exactly the right time, because it's just absolutely beautiful, the scenery. It looks like a fucking nightmare to get around.
Yes.
But incredibly beautiful. And then when you come to the kind of the film's sense of humour, it has a really throwaway attitude to life. Life is cheap in this world. And it's something that, kind of Liam Neeson's character starts to understand quite quickly. And the film communicates that by whenever someone dies, their name comes up on screen.
Yes.
And their nickname, if they had one. A lot of people have these silly nicknames.
Yes, these gangster nicknames.
And then a symbol above which reflects their creed or religion.
A film this also reminded me of is Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You know, so I did think it was like a combination of a Bud Boddicker, I always mispronounce it.
But Bedecker, is it?
Randolph Scott film, Fargo, and Goodfellas. Yeah, if I were to describe the mix, that would be the mix.
Yeah.
You know, because it's got some hilariously dark moments. You know.
Yeah.
But I also thought that aside from, you know, this witty structure where, you know, initially it's episodic, so everything is a killing, right? And you realize quickly that, you know, that's how the film is going to be broken up, right? First you kill this person, then you kill that person.
Yeah, you kill one person, that leads into the next person, that leads into the next person.
Yeah. So each one is a killing. But I was also surprised and really pleased by... So on the one hand, the film seems a real boys movie. Yeah, like Laura Dern is in it for about 5 minutes, right? Their son is killed. She's very sad. She leaves Liam Neeson. You never see her again in the rest of the film. But also, you know, when you think about it, it's like a kind of range of representation that you rarely see in American films of this type, right? So first, there's lots of native people, right? And
there's a whole drug cartel which is Native Americans.
Yeah, but it's not just that. There's also, you know, the wife of the Viking, the head gangster, you know, is also a Native American person. Yeah. And, you know, the film has a whole commentary on Native American culture. So, you know, the head of the Native American gang is walking through this hotel lobby and looks at all these Indian artifacts, right? And, you know, it's all made in China, right? So the film has a commentary on that, right? There's the Thai bride. There's the black contract killer, you know, who ends up in the whitest of all places, which is like, you know, the Rockies it's meant to be in Colorado. And there's the gay couple who are kind of secretly in love, who are working for the Viking.
Yeah, they're sort of enforcers for the Viking.
Yeah,
and they're secretly carrying on.
I love that. And actually, I love that just visually, right? Because one of them is like really short and fat, you know, and the other one is just kind of, you know, a normal handsome guy. And the pairing is itself in a way funny and endearing, you know.
Yeah. There's more that kiss that they sort of steal in the car when no one's there.
Yeah,
there's more tenderness in that than in the end of Moonlight.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
and it comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's a real joy. And then also because then you have the kind of plot development where the Viking kills off the younger, handsomer one as a kind of offering to the Native American gang.
Yes,
because they killed one of theirs by mistake. Blah blah blah. And then the way that affects the other guy, the bald guy, and he's really the senior kind of enforcer of the Viking. The way that affects him affects his behaviour. Like, he chooses not to kill Liam Neeson when he has the chance, despite the fact that he's the guy they're after, because his allegiance has kind of been turned by this point. He's the guy who informs the Native Americans that they're going to be here, so come and kill the guy.
Yeah,
you know, and like that. So it's not just a kiss that they steal and a kind of thing. It matters for the plot that they were in love.
But actually, I think the way, you know, so you were mentioning Tarantino before, but actually, I think the way that this film is different is, you know, that, well, the humor is progressive and, you know, consistent and more low-key in some ways, more sardonic, but also there are moments of real tenderness in this film that I don't see in Tarantino's films.
No.
You know, and you mentioned that kiss. There was also something about the sadness between Laura Dern and Liam Neeson that was unspoken, but that I also found touching. And then there's the last scene with Liam Neeson and the boy he's kidnapped, right?
Yes.
Which is incredibly sweet and affecting. You know,
because the kid really needs a dad, and his dad, who's the Viking, is not doing that job at all, and he's awful.
Yes.
And the kid finds this kind of bit of peace when he's been kidnapped by Liam Neeson, who's being nice to him. Liam Neeson kind of appreciates that he's got someone there to look after his son's gone.
Yes. And look at how that moment is structured, because, you know, he wants to be read to, you know, and so Liam Neeson agrees, but the only thing they've got is like these tractor catalogs, or, you know, these these machine catalogs for snow removals, and actually, so on the one hand the situation is jokey and so on, but on the other hand, you know, they managed to extract kind of real tenderness, within something that is both frightening, the boy's kidnapped, right, and also touching. So there's this funny, frightening, touching, all in the same kind of thing, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah, it seems to be a recurring aspect of kind of roles that Liam Neeson has been choosing. I think that involve the loss of a family member since his wife died, didn't she, about 10 years ago?
Yes. In a similar setting, I think, because it was a skiing accident, wasn't it?
Right, I don't know too many details about it, but then she passed away about 10 years ago. And it's something that you see in these roles. I mean, Taken is all about, my family's gone, I'm going to get them back. But also in things like, I think The Commuter had something similar. It had kind of family aspect. Yeah,
well, it's become like a Liam Neeson thing. But actually, I think,
and Widows too.
For my money, this is except Widows is not a Liam Neeson film.
No, but still in the role that he's picked, it's kind of there's something in there. It's interesting that he kind of there is a thread that seems to have developed. In his
choice. But I wanted to make a point about Liam Neeson vehicles like Taken and like The Commuter and like The Grey, right, which are all kind of focused on him, as is this one. And in my view, this is really the best of them all, except for maybe The Grey, which I think is kind of like a minor masterpiece of a movie, really, or maybe a masterpiece to core. I mean, I'll decide when I see it more, But that's this is kind of quite an amazing film. I think quite a revelation for me.
Once the kind of various characters and sort of sets of characters get going and the wheels start going. I did find myself going, I'm not sure where this is going now. Early on, it seems clear. Early on, it seems like he's going to go through the set of people he has to get to the top and there'll be a fight. And as you say, it doesn't develop that way, not entirely. Not. It's not straightforward, and particularly once the Native American gang gets involved, because the Vikings gang thinks that they're the ones who've been killing his men, so then they attack them, blah, blah, blah. So then it becomes this kind of three-way standoff. And by the time you get to sort of the various cars arriving at Liam Neeson's place of work for the final fight, you go, I don't know. I really can't predict that. I mean, particularly once you get to a firefight, like you can't always be sure who's going to die in this because there's bullets flying everywhere. As it turns out, pretty much everybody does.
Well, I was surprised at the ending. Actually, I was thinking, kind of how is this film going to end, right? Because as you said at the beginning of the film, it's like it's purely revenge, right? So his son is dead, right? And he just goes to kill the person responsible. And he does so without remorse, right? And you think, oh my God, this is really harsh and hard. And, so my feeling was there's no way Liam Neeson can get out of this film alive, right? That he's going to have some kind of comeuppance and so on. And actually, I was really surprised at the ending. I think it's a really clever ending.
Yeah?
Yes. So he lives. The head of the native gang lives. They've both lost sons innocently, right, so to speak. Their children have been killed for no reason at all, like they weren't guilty of anything, and they're allowed to kind of, leave the movie alive, even though they have themselves caused a lot of killing, though it's always been of gang members.
Yeah. I'm curious. This is, I guess, just a tangent, but I thought Liam Neeson's son was involved in the drug thing.
No, my impression was that he wasn't. That he was the guy he was working with was a drug addict who owed a dealer.
But they took the son by mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they came to make them pay, right? And they took the son by mistake. And in fact, shot him up with heroin and left him in a public place, right?
Yeah.
That's how he died.
The guy who escapes at the start from the van when that kidnapping happens.
Yes.
Was that the guy who survived? I think
That's
it was.
The guy who survived.
Because I think what the implication is just they took everybody.
They took everyone who was there.
Yeah.
But the guy they were after is the guy who survived, who then asks Liam Neeson for money for a fix, basically.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, so they weren't discriminating when they took everyone and... Anyway,
they took the wrong guy.
But they took the right guy as well, because he got away from the van.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
the point.
they took 2 people. Maybe they were looking for 2 people. I mean, that I'm not clear on.
Yeah.
But I think what the film makes absolutely clear is, that the son was a mistake.
Right. Okay.
You know.
The son thing is a thread through the movie, and you notice it. So Liam Neeson's son dies. The Native American leader's son dies. And you also got this father-son relationship that is really unhealthy and weird between the Viking and his young son.
Yes.
Who Liam Neeson kidnaps at one point and they kind of treats really nicely in this weird scene, weird touching scene. And there was something about... I'd be interested to see what Native American and First Nations audiences would make of the representation, because you see Native Americans represented so little, and it's actually, and I think it's great. I mean, once a Native American gang is part of the story, I'm thinking fantastic. Like, this is going to be interesting, and I think it was kind of interesting. But there is this kind of difference between how the white gang and how the Native American gang treat their kind of debts, where the white gang has killed the son of the Native American leader by mistake, thinking he was involved. He wasn't. So they go, well, just chop off this guy's head, one of ours, and send it over, and that'll be paid for, and we want peace. And when he receives this gift, the leader says, that's not good enough. I want a son for a son. Yes. So on the one hand, it's for the white guys, it's transactional, and for the Native Americans, it's a blood debt. Yes. It's kind of honorific, and I can see the difference that they're drawing there. But I wonder how. I mean, obviously, there's a kind of thriller, fantasy, action thing going on in the movie. But I wonder what Native American audiences would make of that. Going, oh, they're just treating us as kind of weird.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm sure people will have lots of problems with many of the representations, right? Yeah. So I'm sure kind of this is not like an ideal representation. I mean, they're all gangsters really, and they're all drug dealing. So it's not as if everyone's going to go rah rah how fantastically represented we are. But there are. It's represented, which you rarely see in films of this kind. It's like Native Americans rarely exist in American cinema outside of westerns, or outside of some problem. So just to have them in an action film like this is great, I think.
I agree.
And the film has a very intelligent perspective on them. So the film calls out various characters. No, it's not this. They're not. I forget what they say. They're not Apache. They're some other tribe, right? And the film has a perspective.
I think they're Ute.
But what I did notice is that the film has a perspective on racism against Native people in America that it dramatizes here. Now, how well people take to it, I'm not sure. There are other problems, right? So, for example, the Thai bride who was skimming off the massage parlor, and that. I'm sure people, it's very funny, but I'm sure maybe if you're Thai, that's not so funny, right? So, I mean, one can go on kind of like that,
she's sort of nothing but stereotype that character.
But I think it's still good for me, to have a film in which you see a multiracial America with many cultures, in which kind of the white culture is just one of them. So I think the film, to me, I would praise it for that. Though
I agree. Ultimately. And I think those shots. It's only a couple of shots where the leader is walking through that gift shop, walking through the shop of kind of Native American sort of memorabilia and paraphernalia and what have you, and he sees the rug, and then he looks at the label and it says "large, made in China," and he sort of goes, and then it has this shot of like a bust of a Native American head, basically. I don't know if it's supposed to be one of the famous ones or if it's just a kind of artifact. And it's got the bust in the foreground and the leader in the background, and they're just next to each other, and you see the kind of the resemblances. The kind of there's a kind of how do you put it, like a hardness to his face in a way, and it just has this thing of this kind of the commodification of his culture in this kind of well-to-do, very white ski resort in Colorado, and you have that thing. I mean, it's an old joke of do you have a reservation? Are you having a laugh? You know, where they go to the hotel and they want some rooms.
Mm.
But then the film like turns it into a whole thing about how they could. Do you know what I could do to you on Yelp?
Yes.
Wonderful. How he kind of uses the receptionist's discomfort at possibly having offended someone.
It's full of good jokes. It's beautifully structured, or it's very intelligently structured. It's very funny in kind of a quirky way. I mean, again, you know, the films that come to mind are like, you know, Fargo, Goodfellas, a little bit the films of Lucas Moodysson, you know, that have like this blank, offbeat humor. Yeah, you detect elements of that. It is kind of a very funny film, but in ways that are kind of strange and dark. Yeah. So and it looks absolutely spectacular.
Going back to look, it reminded me as well of The Snowman by
Yes.
Thomas Alfredson, which you know had its significant problems, but we felt didn't get enough credit for the way it looked.
Yeah.
And the way it was shot in the snow,
Well,
and it obviously shares a kind of Scandinois
Yes.
a background to a degree. You know, this is from Norwegian director.
Yes. I
But
mean,
it has the kind of the visuals inspire that same kind of awe that we had when we saw The Snowman of just
Yes.
the scope of this.
this has incredibly memorable images, you know, like the son of the native gang leader crucified on the highway sign in the middle of the snow and then shot at a kind of angle where the mountains predominate. You know, so on the one hand you see these mountains and then half of the frame is just him crucified against the, you know, the highway signs. I mean, it's just phenomenal, I think, really.
I would have liked more from the villain, who's the Viking. He's the central villain.
I loved him.
I would have. I don't think the actor's good enough.
Well, I think there were some problems with the actor, though. I think he's very dynamic, though. He's too one note. He's too hyper and angry all the time. So that's a problem.
I would have liked just a kind of quirk in him, you know. I mean, I guess they try and put this quirk in him where he's a sort of peace-loving vegetarian, look after the earth type.
He's a soya eating or tofu eating Mr. Right on, you know, the son has to be raised in this way and go to this school, and he sets his diet and everything. You know, he's one of those environmentalists who has no problems killing 55 people.
The joke when he dies, because they say when people die, their names come up and you see the symbol over with Christian or one of them's Jewish and, you know, Sikh or whatever, and the symbol over his name is the CND symbol, which is quite funny. But again, he's again, once the tone of the film began to establish itself as this darkly comic thing, I kind of thought of him really. He's a bit of a cartoon villain, and what I wanted was I would have liked some more interesting quirk. Something more cartoony I would have liked, as opposed to this thing where it was.
No, I
just a bit annoying.
I thought it worked just great. And
the main problem is the actor, though. And the other thing is that everyone in this film is basically from New York, apart from Liam Neeson, who's from Ireland. Like all the Native Americans. Like there's not a Denver accent among anyone.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't recognize the Denver accent, but you know, there are some people that looked kind of, you know, mid Northwestern. I mean, I think the cops, and actually one of the things I really loved about the film was the whole supporting cast. Actually, you know, kind of people, in fact, many of them probably of Swedish or, you know, Norwegian descent, or German descent as well, kind of people in those areas. So, you know...
That's not something I particularly had a problem with. I think that was kind of aiming at the cartooniness, which I would have liked to have seen more from the Viking. The fact that, you know, you have one guy who's just so clearly from Boston. In fact, the character was in The Departed. And when he dies... Another joke that I liked was normally when someone Christian dies, they just get a simple cross above their name, and when he dies, he gets this really elaborate one because he's a Catholic.
Yes,
you know, like it's so clear that he's not from there. But I didn't have a problem with any of that. I thought that was fun, and that's actually what I would like to have seen more of from the villain, which I felt was lacking.
Well, no, I liked it, and I liked, you know, the way that he's made to seem like right on Mr. Charity. You know, and so on. I think the actor could have been better, for sure. But I liked it, and actually, one of the things that I liked about it is, you know, the way that the character's conceptualized. So he's Mr. Right on everything. about what to eat and how to dress and what charity to support and all of those things, what car to drive, and so on. And yet, he's someone who never keeps his word. One of the consistent things is he's the head of the gang, and he tricks everybody. Yeah, he kills this one, he cons that one, he tells that one that he's going to pay this but doesn't. Right? He
agrees to pay someone 10 grand, and then the next thing you see is their name come up because they've just been killed.
Exactly. So I thought that was a very wittily conceptualized character. It's true the actor is not maybe the best, but actually I didn't mind at all.
Yeah, it was funny that the rate at which people died was something that made me uncomfortable for a little while, because the film was so cavalier about the value of people's lives in this. And again, it was something that took me a third of the movie or more to get the tone of and get the measure of, in a way. I don't know. It's at first I thought, and it's not like this is the first film I've ever seen that has people die en masse. I mean, more people die in things like John Wick but I don't know. That was funny. That was just something that I had to get into the sort of.
Well, the film had to win you over, because I think it is a film that sets up expectations and keeps moving them. But it sets up each situation beautifully. Like, so for example, when you have, I forget who the minor supporting character is, one of the gangsters, when he's telling the joke about the $20 bill to this guy, right? It's Steve Jobs would be so proud of this scam kind of thing. And then the way that they so it's set up in the halfway through the film, and then at the end the way that it delivers on that setup, it's great, and it's visually great.
Yeah,
yes,
the
bullet goes right through the $20 bill, so you know where it's hit. Right, so
the film does a lot of that, actually. Like, it shows quite a bit of killing, but also really eschews showing a lot of the killing, and you just know that people have died because the name comes up, or in that case, the name comes up, and you see the note, and it adds a joke to how he died.
It's not a gory film at all.
No, I mean, it has elements. There is, as you say, towards the end, there's a lot of blood going all over the place.
But actually, there's not. A lot of people get killed, but actually, you don't see a lot of blood or gore or.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, the first guy he kills, he punches in the face so much that it's absolutely caked in blood, and then he kills the guy.
The first one, that's the very first murder in the film. Yes.
And the second one, he shoots, and all the blood goes over all the dresses, the bride dresses.
That's a fantastic shot.
I know, but the point is, it gory is not the right word, but it is a cartoony sort of gore. Yeah, there is more than a little blood. I would say.
In those instances, but that's also part of the joke. It's making it funny. So,
yes, exactly.
The guy gets shot, and then all his blood falls over all these beautiful white wedding dresses. So it's like a visual joke that's kind of taking place. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was a joke.
Yeah, it was. Of course, it was a joke.
It's not a joke that dresses get bloody.
It's a visual joke.
I don't think so. The joke was just how cavalierly Liam Neeson shot him. I think. It wasn't that the blood goes over the dresses. It's just, he's gone.
No. The joke is also that you have all of this kind of splattered on these beautiful wedding dresses, that this woman has just bought one of them, and there's a whole setup about how beautiful and how great and how gorgeous, and then you splattered with blood. Uh-huh. And actually, it has a similar joke later on when the guy gets shot and he falls on these balloons. If you remember those white folding things, right? And then kind of. There's a splat noise and the balloon kind of dissolves. I mean, those are all great visual jokes.
Yeah, no, that was a joke, clearly. I'm just saying blood going on the dresses is not a joke. That's just...
Well, you might not find it funny. It's a joke.
I don't think it's a joke.
It's a joke.
It's not a joke. What's funny about it? I know you've tried to explain it, but I disagree. That's not a joke. It's just a splat. The joke is...
it's a splat on wedding dresses...
There's nothing funny about that. It's not a joke. Well, it's not a joke the film sets up.
Well, I laughed, so I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think that is the joke in what's happening there. That's what I'm saying.
Well, why not?
Because the film hasn't set it up, and it doesn't matter.
What's a joke?
Well, the joke.
What's a joke to you?
No, the joke there. I'm saying that scene, that killing is a joke, but that's not the joke of it.
What's the joke of it?
The joke, as I say, is that Liam Neeson gets his information and shoots him very quickly and cavalierly. And it's the coming out of nowhere and the abruptness of it is the joke.
No, the coming out of nowhere and the abruptness is part of the joke. And the guy splattering over all of the wedding dresses with blood sprayed on them is the joke.
Yeah, there's a kind of visual humour in that, but the joke isn't that it's funny that wedding dresses have got bloody.
Well, I thought that was the joke, and I
Okay.
still think it's the joke.
Okay.
And actually, I think the film sets it up by having, like, you know, all of the discussion of the wedding and the dress and how gorgeous it is and so on. And then, zoom, it all goes up in smoke.
I
Or
disagree.
in blood.
Well, okay, I disagree with that.
Well, we could disagree.
Yeah. Anyway, that aside, it's fun, and
All right, so would you recommend people to go see this film?
yeah, you should see it. It's good fun, and it's different, and it's probably not what you're expecting at all. It wasn't what I was expecting. It's got all sorts going on.
I think it's great. I think it's one of the most original films I've seen so far this year. I really enjoyed it, and I think in the first 5 minutes, I whispered to you, I'm loving this. Yeah, like there was just something so exciting about seeing, just visually, the first 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah, no, that was when I whispered to you, "This is a weird movie," and you went, "I love it."
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I highly recommend it. Please do go see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. We are eavesdropping at the movies.
We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Twitter and Facebook. And the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Hurrah.
Cheerio.